Today I'll talk about something that I've wanted to talk about for so long. Every time I watch emotion and think of Felix's growth in the show, I can't not think of this. So we'll analyze this growth and how it happened by bringing Red Moon herself in the discussion. Because even though it didn't start from her, she was the turning point for Felix. This is such a serious thing for me, I can talk about it for hours and it's so beautiful, like y'all don't get it like I do. So Felix, who is confirmed now to have regretted helping Gabriel, came back to get his ass and he's not playing. Or so he thinks. He has all this rage for humanity bottled up and it's been growing for so long that he's reached his breaking point. Now he only has his delusions to comfort him in a way and fill his ego because nobody else will, to convince himself further that he's right to put all these people in the box with the label monsters. He thinks it's him against everyone else because he's never been allowed to be with anyone else, so now it's stuck in his brain as a me versus everyone else thing. I'm not the monster, you controlling motherfuckers are the monsters. Or, since you wanna control me so bad, let's see you do it now. He thinks he has the upper hand now, he has the control he never had, or so he thinks. Because it's all in his head, he can only do so much for the name of revenge before he breaks down. Which is exactly how it went. He still doesn't have control over oppressive fucks like he thinks he does. It's an illusion because he's so vulnerable and mad that he messed up right away. He came to that dance so confident that this was the day he was getting back at all his trauma, getting back at Adrian's trauma that he didn't have to go through. He was so deep in his own world that he built in his brain and wanted to turn into reality that he didn't think of the possibility that maybe Adrian and Kagami do not want to be rescued at the cost of the world. Which, little parenthesis, I'm tired of all calling it a genocide. Like OMG. Tell me one person who died in that episode. Everyone, you said? Okay, then why is everyone alive and unharmed at the end? Exactly. Because this wasn't him permanently removing their lives like y'all keep saying. Even with the glitch in his plan with Marinette disappearing, he made the senti, so there's no way he could snap anyone out permanently. The power was literally to be able to snap people out of existence and bring them back whenever he wanted. Playing with life, sure, but y'all know these people were fine and untouched at the end. They just got to chill in the void for a few minutes. That's my theory on where they went for the few minutes that Felix and the others were trying to make sense of each other. Or maybe he sent them to the borderlands. OMG period. Anyways. Back to Felix not realizing Adrian and Kagami are not like him in the way that he thinks. Because yes, while they do feel suffocated by their controlling parents, Felix's desire for a perfect world for him and those two is mostly motivated by his desire to be free from every controlling person in his life. He thought this would be a win-win for everyone. Then there's Ladybug trying to understand him but being so pissed from him lying to her and betraying her. They're both mad and see each other as the bad guy, and he doesn't know that Marinette is herself under different circumstances where he didn't betray her would love to help him find peace. Because at the end of the day, he just wants to find peace. And in his brain, the only way he can do that is by being alone with the only people who never controlled him and who he relates to. He snaps Ladybug away out of rage, so now it's plan B. Or C? So he finds Kagami, or rather Kagami finds him, and he brings Adrian back to surprise him with the dystopian apocalyptic Alice in Borderland looking ass streets that he thinks are perfect, and what these two would love, obviously projecting on them because he's the only one mentally ill enough in the trio to live in that world. To be honest, I feel him. Kagami calls him insane and he's so confused as to why they don't like what he did for them. They call him insane and delusional and try so hard to convince him to get everyone back, or at least Adrian does. Kagami being Kagami tries to end his ass and she's mad as hell. Because even though her mother is controlling, strict and abusive in whatever way is convenient to her in the situation, to call it samurai values or whatever the fuck so we don't call CPS, from what we know it's still Kagami's only family and she's only 14. Yeah, Kagami has been with us for 4 seasons and we still know nothing about her father. Yet anyways. Kagami has no other choice except the mother she's stuck with, and from Felix's view she should have to deal with that. Hot take. Actually, it's not even a hot take, just a fact. Better to have no parents than abusive ones. Even though the ideal thing would be to just have loving parents, but in a lot of cases that just can't happen. Cases like all these children who are currently trying to convince each other they're insane. They think Felix is insane for doing this just so they won't be controlled, and he thinks they're insane for not appreciating what he did for their happiness. But besides the moral aspect of snapping everyone away, even if these two loved the idea, being more mentally developed than Felix, they still know it's wrong. So now we're left with the problem of Felix not knowing what will make them happy when it comes to daddy/mommy issues. He doesn't know Kagami that well to guess if she would be okay with his dream world, and he's been away from Adrian for so long. The more years pass, the more far apart they've grown because of their parents. So now Felix doesn't know what the fuck is going on in Adrian's life and that they're not alike. He's so alienated from things deemed as normal, and after experiencing dehumanization by being called a monster by his father, he feels different from everyone else. Nothing about him is normal now after that. Because senti monster is the most common term to refer to creatures made from the peacock miraculous, and he's one of them. So if a non-senti is called a monster, it's metaphorical, and if he's called that, it's just what his father thought of him, like it's a fact that because he's a child of the peacock miraculous he's black magic, so a monster. That's why it's a trigger word for him, especially at the ball where it's so emphasized. Also notice how many times they call him a monster this season. Kagami calling him that was not the move. Now what does Red Moon do during all of this? Nothing. She was created to just be a moon, shine light on people and possibly transport them into the void or whatever if Felix snapped his fingers. She can't react, can't object, can't bring anyone back herself, has no free will, no voice. And yet Felix sees her as such an important being to him. Because she helped him with his plan that he knew nobody else would understand except the one being who can't talk and explain why it's wrong. He didn't want anyone to tell him he's wrong or crazy. He hasn't yet realized this is not the solution to his problems. All Red Moon could do is sit and watch her creator spiral because he did something selfish that he justified as not being selfish because, since they're like him and have similar experiences, they should think like him too. His plan to make everyone disappear is deep down selfish. It's only what he wanted. Like he didn't ask them. Red Moon was created from tragically wrong assumptions. Ladybug is not a heartless monster. Adrian does not want to be rescued at the cost of the world. And Felix is not the knight in shining armor or the one in control like he thought he was. Red Moon was the incarnation of his delusions and needed to be destroyed so he can get better, like we see him in his next appearances where he's a changed person. I hate to say this, but Red Moon was doomed from the start. Her end was bittersweet because even though she did so much for Felix and had a life, she had no place where he put her, and was unintentionally fueling his already sick mindset. She was a symbol of his insanity and anger when she lived, and her death marks a new start for Felix, who just realized how fucked up he is and how much he's starting to look like all the controlling freaks he hates. But after interacting with Marinette in the role of Adrian at the ball, he knows he's not the only one who wanted to do something for him. Marinette wanted to encourage Adrian and he saw her sincerity, and how she went as far as taking someone else's place to come to the ball and talk to Adrian when she could have just texted him. Yet anyway, she could have texted him, but then she wouldn't have been there to see crazy ass Felix and be the main character, and we just can't have that. Fine. So Marinette also taught him a lesson that maybe not everyone is out there to control them. Basically Felix has everyone including you in a box and you have to prove your way out of it for him to like you. What did we learn today? Red Moon's death is Felix not just moving on, but starting over as a better person with even more trauma he has to sort out. Because we all saw how Red Moon's death affected him afterwards. Nope, I'm not making any more sentences to manipulate, thanks. Which did make y'all wonder how he's going to be in the team and fight if he won't use his power. We'll see. Also, to debunk the hypocrisy thing with once upon a time after saying he won't abuse any sentence, you can't do what Felix and Kagami did with a normal projector. Like, come on now, don't piss me off. Was this sad? Well, yes. But as two artistic kids who want to reveal the truth about everything to Ladybug herself and chose the musical theater route, we have to accept this one last contribution, or sacrifice of once upon a time. She was created to help them reveal the truth. Emotions are temporary and fleeting, and this was yet another one of them. I hate the power of the peacock so bad it's actually gross if you think about it. I've talked about it before and how using living sentient beings regardless of sentience level is fucked up, but yet whatever made this miraculous needs to die. But at least Felix came out of it with a lesson, and he now knows he needs help and that it's okay to ask for it, and he doesn't have to fight for his freedom alone. Not me being a philosopher now. OMG, like and subscribe.